welcome to another edition of Kyle Meredith with. It's the interview series presented by WFPK at WFPK.org, Consequence, and the Consequence Podcast Network. Thanks always for making your way here. Check out the series. You know what to do. If you like what you see, what you hear, hit that subscribe button. I put out 3 new interviews every single week, so it's a great way to keep up with your favorite artists. And I'm so excited today because Mckenna Grace is here. New music. Hello.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you. I've been watching you for years in all your various roles, and now catching up on your music career. You've only been doing this for, professionally now, in the public, I guess, for a few years now, right?
Yeah, what year is it? It's 2023 as of right now. I
Right.
think I've been doing this for 2 years professionally.
Yeah.
3? I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
Sure. It's still somewhat recent in the whole game of your career, which is
Yeah.
and I'm saying that as a compliment because your songs are so well thought out and the hooks are so good and the songwriting is so great. And so first let me throw that because as something that's still sort of new in your career, you got to jump on it really quick.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. I
Yeah.
mean, it is cool. I'm only 2 years going in music whenever I've been acting for 13. So in the grand scheme of things, it is such a short like amount of time, but it feels like I've been doing it for a while.
Yeah. Well, you're already good at the craft and you got this new single and it's called Natalie,
hmm
which is really great. I'd love to hear the story from this too because I guess the story this stems from a real life friendship of yours, correct?
It does. I wrote a love song about my friend because I have this girlfriend of mine and I went out with her one night and I went home and I was honestly like I was like down in the dumps. I was like, man, why can't I be as cool as her? Like I want to be her. Like it's so unfair. And I had a session the next day and I went into the studio and I was like, like I was so like frustrated. I was like, man, she's just so freaking cool and perfect and pretty and like all of these things. I wish I was her. And then I was like, you know what? I don't want to write a negative song though. That's I'm not negatively jealous. I'm just like, man, you're so freaking cool. I wish I was you, you know? And so instead of writing a negative song, I was like, why don't I just write a love song about her? Why don't I just write a love song about her? Like I admire all these things about her. Why not? I think that that's a much more positive way to look at things. And so I was like, why don't I just write a love song for my friend? I'm going to start writing love songs about my friends.
Which is a great thing to do because it's usually easier to go negative, right? I mean, you talk about, people will say it's easier to write a heartbreak song than to write a happy song.
Oh, it is. It is. That's why my like entire discography is heartbreak songs.
So did you find that like once you had decided like, okay, we're gonna go for the positive side of this? I mean, did it come easy? Did you find it to be a challenge?
I mean, not entirely. I was just like, the main thing I wanted to get across, I was like, this is the kind of girl that like is just perfect, and this is the kind of girl that you would fall in love with. This is the kind of girl that you'd write a song about. Like that's just what I wanted to infuse in the song, and I feel like I got that across because I do literally say that. But no, I felt like it was pretty easy. It was nice. It was a nice like little write. It was nice. It was fun. I had a great time writing it.
Yeah. It's a great concept too. I think we all set ourselves up against other people in comparison, some probably unfairly most of the time. Like you know that you've got fans who think the same thing about you, and yet you still find yourself in that same position. Is that fair?
No, I mean, I suppose I think that it's yeah, everybody feels that way. I feel that way 24 freaking 7 with all of the people I know. I'm constantly like, oh my God, like everyone I know is so cool. Why am I not as cool as them? You know, it's just like that's just a part of life. So I figured, I don't know, there's always a negative spin on everything, but why not write a love song? Why not write a love song about a girlfriend of mine? Like that just sounds nice. I feel like I don't know. I always listen to songs and I'm like, oh my God, I wish that this song was written about me or I wish this. And I was like, why don't I just do that for like everyone I know? Why don't I just write love songs about people? Like, why not? I feel like that's positive, that's nice, put it out into the universe.
Hmm.
And it's still kind of expressing those feelings of, I wish I was you. You're so cool. You're so beautiful, but it doesn't have to be in a negative way.
Yeah. So are you thinking about like why don't you write a song for all of your friends? Are you doing that now? Or can you
That's
follow up with
exactly what
that?
I was thinking. I was like, why don't I write more songs for my friends? Like, honestly, why don't I? I was just thinking about that. I have a few different songs for a few of my friends. I do. I haven't put them out yet. I have a song for my mom. I've kind of been branching out lately. I've been like, I should stop writing about heartbreak as much. I was like, I need to branch out just a little bit. So I felt like this was a really fun start into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's even concept focus. I was wondering that about you because you're looking at the last couple EPs, Bittersweet 16, Autumn Leaves, have
Mhm.
both been musically, it feels like anyway, concept focus, whereas Bittersweet was a little bit pop rock and Autumn Leaves has a bit more of the softer, folkier side to it. Like when you're putting together collections like these EPs, is that helpful? Do you think inside genre in that way?
Sometimes I for Bittersweet 16 that just kind of came together the way that it did. I was just kind of in a vibe where that was the kind of music I was creating and there were so many songs that were left out of that, but those were the ones that like fit together and made sense that told a story. And Autumn Leaves was much more conceptually like I wanted to make something that fit and felt like autumn. And originally there was so much more to that. It was like an album. But then I ended up narrowing it down to just a few songs and connecting them that really made sense and told a story. But there's so much more to that story. But that was what made sense. And I mean, for what I'm putting together right now, I have so many ideas, but then I just keep on having new life experiences and writing so much more music. That's what always happens with these ideas that I have. I have like an idea for an album or for an EP, and I completely put it together, but the next thing I know, before my label's even done processing it, I'm like, okay, guys, I've moved on. I have an idea for something new. This is what I'm doing now. So I'm just kind of like seeing and writing and trying to constantly outdo my previous writing until something sticks and molds together. I have a good idea for what I want to put out next. I have a concept and a sound that I'm playing with, but I feel like right now I'm messing around with a good in between of Autumn Leaves and Bittersweet 16. But I'm very in like Alana Del Rey like space where I'm feeling I don't know I'm feeling I don't know. I'm feeling different. I'm feeling different and I'm feeling fun and I'm feeling feminine. So I'm just like, I'm trying out all sorts of new things. I don't
Yeah.
know. Sorry.
No,
A
it's all
whole
right.
jam.
I can hear the Lana a little bit, especially in Natalie and in the Autumn Leaves stuff. I've heard you talk about some of your other, I don't know if you call them North Stars, but I was trying to remember like you've mentioned in the past like Radiohead and the
Mhm.
whole, of course, you're speaking my language on stuff like Mitski, I believe.
Oh yeah. Love her. I completely. That was a lot of the inspiration for Bittersweet 16 was like was Hole and Green Day and La Tigra was a big inspiration on Bittersweet 16. And then with Autumn Leaves, it was more of like I listened to so much folklore and and that kind of music. And right now I'm very still in a folklore mindset and a lot of Lana Del Rey. I am still, though this is less musical inspiration, but I'm very much a metal and rock person. I probably one of my all-time favorite bands and my one of my favorite bands, if not my favorite band right now, is System of a Down. And so I just listen to that kind of stuff all the time. And I think that it would be so fun to write like a rock or a metal album someday, which is totally different from Natalie. So I have all of these ideas in my mind that I'm just kind of messing around with on each song, but I'm very much in like a Lana headspace right now.
That's such a great balance. And like I've had Serge from System on this show several times, many times, and I'm having a lot of fun in my head just imagining you doing a System of a Down type of Serge Tankian vocal,
That
which
would
is
be
like the
so
nuttiest,
cool.
you know.
I love them. I love them and Limp Bizkit and Slipknot. Like those are some of my favorite bands. So it's like it's very different than I mean, my entire like aesthetic and vibe and music. So it's just like, I don't know, someday I think it'd be fun to get a little rocky again because
Yeah,
I dabbled with the more of like punk pop, but
sure. I look
we'll see.
forward to hearing whatever that sounds like. But I don't like folklore changed. Folklore blew up all of our worlds, I think.
Mhm,
Like that's we've got that one up on vinyl around here, and it's probably played at least once a week or so. It's
mhm.
sort of a perfect album. So yeah, I can't knock you for that at all.
No, perfect freaking album. I will like die on that hill. That is probably my favorite album of all time. Ugh, like I can't even. It's so good. I'm so surprised whenever I was going through like my Spotify Wrapped that it was not in my top because that was all I listened to this year. I was like, there's got to be something wrong. You know what I was? I was in the top 5% or 3% of Taylor Swift listeners across the globe, which was crazy out of like what, 107 million monthly listeners.
Yeah.
So I was really proud of that.
Did you have
Sorry.
no, did you have an album of the year? Something that was released this year? Do you think in those terms? By the way, I
Um,
hate that question when people ask me that, so I apologize if I'm throwing that
like
your
my
way.
favorite album of this year,
Yeah,
I would say probably Folklore. I can decide because I have specific songs that probably aren't even in Folklore that are my favorite songs of the year, but album wise, definitely Folklore. Um, hmm, Folklore. What albums did I listen to this year? I know
that's
everything
the
like
worst part
song and
about this
artist wise.
question on the spot is you're like, what did I listen? Oh my
I'm like
God.
pulling up my Spotify. I'm like, what did I do? Because I can tell you my top albums of last year were like Decide by DJO and Pebble Rain by Lovejoy. And in those albums, I really enjoyed those. You know what? There is this great artist, Blondeshell, and her album was probably one of my favorites of this year. I
Absolutely.
became obsessed with her. Blondeshell, um, Under Rug Swept, Alanis Morissette. I dug that album this year. Folklore. Hmm.
Those are good ones. Have you reclaimed
I feel
have
like those
you
are.
have you reclaimed Nirvana yet?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You know what? I let Nirvana get ruined for me for like a few months. And by the time I even put out that song, I was back. I was back, baby. I can't even the person that I wrote that song again, I actually we reconnected and have been laughing about that song now. Like we've reconnected and become friends again. And I'm like, you never ruined Nirvana. I couldn't let you. I just needed to be dramatic for the sake of songwriting, but I could never have let you.
You're not worth it letting Nirvana be right. Yeah,
Yeah, I
no,
was like, I
I
can't. It's
I'm happy to hear
Nirvana.
that. I'm happy to hear yes, Nirvana. I
Yeah.
also like what you do in arts in the biggest picture in your entire career. Again, it's sort of what I was saying at the beginning. It's so impressive that I can't figure out when you do the music, when you actually record the music. Because with two releases this year, and that's not even counting, the singles like Natalie that comes after this. And if I've got the timeline right, reading that you basically went straight from Ghostbusters to Ireland to shoot Anniversary.
hmm I've been gone all freaking year.
So when did you do that? Like, how does it work for you? When do you fit this in?
So actually, two of my co-writers and my producer flew out to London while I was shooting Ghostbusters and stayed with me for a few weeks, and we just created a ton of music that I haven't even put out yet, which is funny. Natalie was created in February. Natalie was created in February. Autumn Leaves was created last October, November, and then it came out this October, November, I think, which was really funny. Uh, I mean, everything probably is created like a year before it comes out. So by the time I'm releasing it, like the things that felt so deeply personal that I was putting into the song at the time is now like a memory. It's like a little time capsule. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what was I even talking about? Oh my gosh, I can't believe I let that affect me so bad. I thought it was the end of the world. And then I get to release this music and be on the other side of it and like look back and talk about it and rehash it all if I'm talking about my sad music.
Mm.
But for Natalie, it's a different story. But yeah, I mean, this was created back in February, and then I had this song for so many months. And then once I got home from being out of the country for 7 months, I re-recorded it and we wrote a bridge.
It really is impressive, and the songs are great, but yeah, just seeing how that works, knowing that you're on two sides, like you said, you record it and because it doesn't come out. And I know when you're, 17, is that right? Yeah, I mean, life changes so fast anyway.
So
It-
fast.
It's almost like finding a note you wrote somebody from a year ago and going, I kind of remember that person. Like I remember doing that.
It's so funny. I mean, with Autumn Leaves, I have a song on there called What You'll Never Say, which ended up being one of the most popular off the album, but that was never going to be on the album. That was never, I mean, the EP. That was never going to be on the EP. It was never even going to be on the album whenever it was an album. But out of nowhere, my mom and I, what we do is, when we live a little bit out of LA, so whenever we drive into LA, like we just some days she'll be like, turn on like this song and this one, and I want to hear this demo, and is always listening to my demos. And we were like, wait a minute, this song is fire. Why is this not on the EP? It was only gonna be like 3 songs, 4 songs, and then all of a sudden we found that song and it ended up being on there and one of the favorites. It's funny how it works. I'll just randomly find stuff and be like, whatever happened to this song and why is it not out there?
And there it is. That's one of my favorite, especially the way November rolls right into that one. It's a powerful moment of that EP. I'm glad you found it because I think I'm with the congregation on this one. That's one of my favorites on there as well. So
Me too. Thank you.
yeah. On that whole thing of revisiting, I do want to quickly bring up because Ghostbusters, as we mentioned, you get to revisit this character again, and Phoebe and the progression. What is the progression of your character? I mean, is there? Do you find that in something like this?
Yeah, I mean totally. Whenever I first started doing I've these films, I had just turned 13 right before we went to shooting. I mean, I remember I think Jason and Logan, who plays podcast, like came to my 13th birthday party before shooting. And so now I'm 17. I'm gonna be 18 next year, and this is coming out next year. It's crazy. Of course, there's a natural progression, and it's fun getting to play Phoebe as a teenager and exploring the new like family dynamics and Phoebe's new emotions and figuring out new friendships and relationships and just being a teenager. It's exciting to play as Phoebe because I'm still figuring it out too. So it's cool doing that on screen.
Yeah. Well, I know I'm excited about it, as a lot of people are, and seeing the story back in New York City and everything. I've had Finn on here a few times as well. Do you guys do the music thing together? Do you ever get that opportunity? Does it ever come up?
Yeah, I mean, he was one of the first people that I was asking for advice, like with label stuff or with releasing or what it's like, whenever I first started getting into music. But I mean, whenever we were on set on this one, he and I would both bring our guitars, and so would Logan, who plays podcast, because now he shreds on guitar now. He plays like Metallica and all that kind of stuff on guitar. So he'll show up on set with like this black, like pointy electric guitar, and Finn and I will have our acoustics. And Paul Rudd, he plays guitar as well, really well, which I didn't know. And he has this running bit he always does where he starts Blackbird and he's like, wait, hang on, that, wait, hang on, that, and he'll do it for like 30 minutes, just keep on restarting Blackbird like 500 times. So yeah, I mean, in that sense, never like in a professional capacity, but we have a very musical cast. We have a very musical cast, so there's always some form of guitar or something on set.
I like knowing there's a little bit of jam session going on the
Yeah.
on the off camera.
Yeah, that's like my greatest. I'm like, Paul Rudd played my guitar.
But just never got through the full song. That's
Never got through the full song, but it's still like begun.
yeah, I love that. It's a good bit. And I'll quickly just bring up to Beautiful Ghost Productions because I know that's sort of the other part of this.
Yeah.
What's going on there? Because first off, the Bad Seeds Returns co-wrote, executive produced, starred, and that just
Yeah.
launched everything, right? I mean, what's the plan? Do you guys have news from there?
I mean, we are right now in the midst of pitching a few different scripts. Because my dad and I, we wrote The Bad Seed Returns, and then we have like 4 or 5 scripts right now. We have a bunch of different things that we're in the midst of pitching and putting out there, and we have a horror, we have a concept for a horror film, we have a horror script, we have a horror script that I would want to write a metal album for. I'm just gonna put that out there, like I'm excited about it. We have like a comedy and a coming of age. We have a lot of different scripts that we're out and pitching right now that I'm really, really excited to see what happens with.
That's cool. And that's a great way to think about that. Like if you just need an excuse to write an album, you're like, if I make the movie, I get to do the soundtrack.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Yeah, that's cool. I really hope you follow through on this metal album at some point. I really,
Me
really do.
freaking too. I will. I promise. Someday I'm gonna do it. One
All
of these
right.
days.
Then I hope we get to talk about it. In the
I can't wait.
meantime, I so enjoy what you're doing. The music that's come out this year, and Natalie, it's a beautiful song. Congrats on everything you got going on, but especially thank you so much for taking the time to talk about it.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me. It's lovely meeting you.
And thanks to my guest. Also, thanks to you for checking out the episode in the series. Before you get out of here, hit that subscribe button. Again, you get 3 brand new interviews every single week. New one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at right here on YouTube, or of course anywhere in podcast land, including iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, NPR, or WFPK.org as well. A great way to keep up with your favorite artists and discover new ones as well. Then after that, actually head over to WFPK.org. That's where I do a show Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern. It's an hour full of song premieres, music news, anniversary spins, bonus interviews, Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern at WFPK.org. Consequence has your music and film news. You can also find me on the social media spots, Facebook, Instagram, mostly on Twitter. All 3 of them, the address is at Kyle Meredith. Do hope you like and follow along. That does it for another edition. I'm Kyle Meredith. I'll see you next time.